Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 30th of October 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So first up today, we have the finalists that were announced from the ETHOnline 2023 hackathon here. So there are 11 finalists. As per usual, I'll link this thread in the YouTube description below. You can check out all the finalists for yourself. But I mean, I say this every time I highlight these threads. Basically, if you want to see what's happening at the bleeding edge of Ethereum development, whether that be at layer 1 or layer 2, or really, I mean, any kind of part of Ethereum development generally, not just on chain, but also the infrastructure that surrounds it, then the ETH global events, specifically kind of these hackathon events, are the things to look at, because when you're at a hackathon, you definitely don't want to be making something that already exists, right? You want to be making something that you think is really, really cool, that you think hasn't been done before. And also the fact is if this is not a product that has to be like perfect, right? It can be, I mean, a lot of the times it's just a proof of concept where it's just on a test net, right? It has very basic functionality, but it shows basically the idea of what you want to achieve here. And because of that, you get a lot of these cool ideas that maybe later become projects that get funded and then eventually hit mainnet and people start using them and they become the next Uniswap, right? Like, because Uniswap famously started out as a not as a hackathon project, but as something that was funded by $100,000 Ethereum Foundation grant, and then went on to raise money and became the juggernaut that it is today. And I feel like in terms of projects that have been spawned out of different hackathons, ETH Global Hackathons probably have spawned the most unicorn projects in the Ethereum ecosystem by far, if I had to kind of put money on it. But I obviously don't have the stats and metrics handy right now. But from my experience, that's kind of been what's up there. So yeah, as I said, you can check out all the projects for yourself. I haven't had a chance to check them out yet and see which ones kind of caught my eye. But they're all listed here with links to each of the projects in the thread, and you can go check them out and play with the demos. I mean, as I've said before, if you go to the project pages, I'll just go to one here. It usually has like the source code, a demo if there is a demo available, a description about the product, and videos and stuff like that about it as well, which is pretty cool. And yeah, you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, speaking of cool, innovative projects, ZK P2P is something that I've covered on the Refuel before, and they put out a video over the weekend showcasing some of what they've built here. So there is a lot going on in this video in the background, but basically what they've built is a way to onboard from USD to USDC in 90 seconds using ZK proofs. So from my understanding, from watching the video and kind of reading through the replies here, what's essentially happening is that they're kind of doing a request here for someone to send money via Venmo. So you can see here on the video, they're requesting 3 USDC via Venmo. So they've got this Venmo order that pops up. There's a Venmo payment QR code that someone can scan, which they do in the demo here. And then that goes through, and then they go to complete on-ramp. I'm just skipping through the kind of video here. And then this is where the ZK proofs kick in. So they go verify email, and then they verify the email via a ZK proof of the email that was sent of the Venmo payment. That's from my understanding. I may be getting that wrong, but that's how I understood it. And then once that proof is kind of verified, it takes about 30 seconds. You can see me skipping through the video here. Once that's done, the order is completed. You submit an on-chain transaction, the order is completed, and then you get USDC. So as I said, that all happens in the background, what I just discussed for you guys there. But essentially, this is a USD from Venmo to USDC on-chain through a peer-to-peer fashion. There's no kind of middleman here. There's no kind of centralized exchange or on-ramp sitting in the middle. It's truly peer-to-peer through Venmo. Obviously, Venmo is a centralized app. It's kind of technically, I guess, a middleman there. But the whole point is to bring, I guess, like the peer-to-peer nature of crypto and of Venmo together in order to create this basically what is a bridge, right? Or what is kind of like an on-ramp, off-ramp sort of hybrid bridge thing that's going on here. And the reason why this is obviously super exciting is because if you want to pay someone back via Venmo, or want to kind of like send money to someone via Venmo, or someone wants you to send them money via Venmo, but maybe they want USDC instead of USD and they don't want to have to do the onboarding themselves, they can do it through something like this, right? So it basically eliminates those steps then. And this is something that I've talked a lot about on the refuel before, about how we need to eliminate as many steps as possible to do things in crypto. It's kind of that I guess like that old adage of like 1 to 2 clicks max to do anything on your mobile phone should be the same thing for on-chain applications, right? And especially when it comes to things like finance. I mean, the TradFi application. Oh, sorry. I guess like they call them neobanks, or like these neofi applications that use TradFi rails. They abstract a lot away in the background, but they're still using the old rail. So they do have limitations on what they can abstract away, and there are middlemen there as well. Like, for example, in the case of kind of like the banks doing these, I guess like doing these instant transfers between each other in some countries, the middleman just exists there and just takes on the risk, right? It's kind of like, if you want to compare the risk that gets taken on there between, bridging between different banks, I guess you can call it. It's the same as like bridging between different L2s on Ethereum, or different, I guess, like optimistic rollups, where instead of going through the 7-day withdrawal period, you use like HOP, for example, and the LPs take on the risk, and they basically give you liquidity in order to bridge there. I think the same is true within TradFi, and the settlement times are kind of like longer as well, but you don't get obviously all the benefits of on-chain stuff like auditability, verifiability, decentralization, all that sort of stuff there. So yeah, just wanted to highlight this really cool product from ZK P2P, which you can check out. I'll link the video in the YouTube description below, but also shout out to these guys because a few of them here in the video, I think three of them in the video here of the four were at Set Protocol when I was working there, and I'm pretty sure two of them still are there. But and I worked with them, so yeah, shout out to those guys for innovating here and creating something really, really cool. All right, so Arbitrum Orbit is now mainnet ready. So for those of you who don't remember what Arbitrum Orbit is, it's basically Arbitrum's answer to rollup as a service, essentially you could call it. So they said here, you can permissionlessly build a customized chain using the most advanced scaling technology in the world using Arbitrum Orbit. And there already is an ecosystem of Orbit chains out there. They seem to be targeting like something different to what OP Stack is targeting. There's a lot of gaming chains from what I've seen here, or like NFT chains. So very different, I think, to what OP Stack has been doing with the... I mean, it's a mixed bag, I think, with OP Stack for sure. But yeah, a lot of gaming chains there. I mean, you can see them here. They're linked in this thread here, and there's an explanation about basically what Arbitrum Orbit chains come with, like the features such as any trust chain, so basically storing data availability not on Ethereum but off chain. Stylus, which is their answer to basically being able to code up smart contracts in different programming languages besides Solidity, such as Rust, C, and C++, while maintaining full EVM compatibility and future upgrades to Nitro. So the Orbit chains can adopt any improvements made to the Arbitrum Nitro tech stack without approval from the DAO. So this includes features such as permissionless validation, MEV capture, further cost reductions, and more. So yeah, as I said, like very similar, I guess, to what OP Stack is doing, to what Polygon is doing with their CDK, to what Zk, I think ZK Sync has a solution for this as well. But yeah, this is Arbitrum's answer to it. So you can go check this out. There's the thread, and I believe there is a blog post maybe. It's kind of hard to tell because Twitter they got rid of the links here, the link previews. But no, there's no blog post just yet. But basically, this is just an announcement that it is mainnet ready, and ready for people to kind of like build with, and you can get in touch with these rollup as a service providers if you are interested in building with Arbitrum Orbit chains here. All right, so you guys know that currently there is a retroactive public goods funding round being run by Optimism. This is round 3, and obviously the applications are still flowing in here. But what I wanted to highlight here is just how many applications have flowed in. So there's been over 1,600 applications. Now, you have to assume that most of these applications are spam, and that's what they kind of say in this tweet here, where they said, with great numbers comes increased potential for spam applications. Exactly for this reason, there is currently a review process in place. Badge holders are leading this effort, carefully evaluating reported applications to ensure fairness, and you can actually see the results yourself at the website here, which is RetroPGFhub.com/review. Yeah, I'll link this in the YouTube description below. But you can see how many projects have been reported. So there's 1,038 that have been reported. Only 64 have been kept so far, and 849 projects have been removed, with 125 pending review. And then you can search through which ones have been kept and which ones have been removed. Now, the thing is that like, even though they're called spam, a lot of it is basically also flagging these things as being out of scope for what the retroactive public goods funding is. And for, I guess, like what ends up happening with these rounds is that a lot of people submit an application and then they don't meet the criteria, but they figure that, oh, well, I'll just kind of like throw this in there as a Hail Mary. Maybe I get something, because I did highlight last time that the rewards in the second round were quite substantial, and obviously that's going to attract people, like if there's money to be made here. But I'm glad that this review process exists, because this was kind of a problem that I had with early on with Gitcoin grants. I think it's gotten a lot better, but early on there was a lot of garbage projects that would be kind of like listed there, and they would potentially get funded because they promised things like airdrops or tokens to people who would donate to them on Gitcoin grants and things like that. So it would become very messy and very noisy, and it would take money away from the more legitimate projects that actually deserved it and actually needed it, and into these other projects that were just opportunistic. So I think that with Optimism's retroactive public goods funding rounds, they're trying to achieve the same. They're trying to achieve a goal here of basically filtering out as many of those projects as possible and rewarding the people and projects that actually fit the criteria. Now, disclosure here: I've submitted the Daily Gwei to this. As far as I know, it hasn't been reported, and I think it has been accepted and kept here. And I submitted that myself. But I am also a badge holder for these kind of rounds here as well, but like I'm not obviously going to vote on myself or anything like that. I'm going to abstain from that. I don't even think I can. I think there's a rule about that there. But yeah, I have submitted the Daily Gwei here. Not sure kind of what rewards I'm going to get from this, but I figured, you know what? I mean, a few people encouraged me as well to submit it. They're like, you need to submit the Daily Gwei to this. Like you do a lot of good work. You should be rewarded for it. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay. I was a bit hesitant to do it, but then I was like, you know what? I may as well. We'll see how it goes there. So yeah, just a disclosure there that I have applied for this round there, and I mean I hope I don't get flagged as spam. I don't think I will, but yeah, I think if you want to go through the projects yourself, as I said, I'll link this in the YouTube description below. But if you go through them, you can see exactly why they're flagged as spam. So it's not just basically badge holders removing things just for the sake of it. It's more that, as I said, they don't fit the scope, they don't fit the criteria, and the badge holders are trying to optimize for people that essentially are in it for the right reasons, are submitting applications for the right reasons, and are actually going to be rewarded for legitimate work rather than, I guess like something that's more opportunistic, right? But anyway, as I said, I'll link this in the YouTube description below and you can check it out for yourself. All right, so there was a bit of drama last week that I actually didn't end up covering on the refuel because I was waiting for kind of the chips to kind of settle down there, or I guess like stuff to settle down generally there. But the drama I'm talking about was around LayerZero, which is a bridging protocol, launching a token called Wrapped ST ETH or WST ETH on various other networks. I think they launched it on Avalanche, Scroll, and one other network. I can't remember what the other network was. It might have been Binance Smart Chain. And they launched this token there and said that, oh, look, you can buy, wrapped staked ETH on these networks through the LayerZero kind of bridge. Now, the reason why it stirred up a lot of drama, or at least from my understanding, is that this was not sanctioned by the Lido DAO, and they also used the same ticker name as obviously the ticker name of the official wrapped ST ETH, right, on Layer 1 Ethereum and some other networks out there. So that would the Lido DAO immediately was just like, well, this is going to cause a lot of confusion for people. This is really dangerous, and this is basically not in the interest of creating a standard. It's more in the interest of creating a vendor lock-in, so to speak. It's more just LayerZero trying to create some sort of lock-in here, rather than working with other bridging protocols and other interoperability protocols in the ecosystem to create a standard. And in response to that, the other bridging protocols such as Connext, LeFi, Salah, Cross, Socket, they're all listed here, put together a unified call for open bridge standards, where they've got 4 key points here that they posited, saying that vendor-locked proprietary standards are not standards, lock-ins create systemic risks, token issuers should own their own tokens, and open provider agnostic standards encourage healthy competition. So I'm glad this was put out, because as I was just saying, like this vendor lock-in stuff, when it comes to standards and bridges and money generally, it is just not going to work. Like it's not going to work because One, as they say here, it is a systemic risk. It causes a lot of risk because what ends up happening is that if your vendor locked in kind of token becomes popular, and then there's kind of like a major bug with it, right? Then what? Are you going to rely on the project to bail you out that you kind of like did? Like, would they rely on Lido to bail them out, sort of thing? And then it also causes obviously a lot of confusion for users who are just like, what am I buying, basically? And if that token is not officially supported by the project, then that token will probably not get a bailout, right? And probably not get any kind of help from the project itself. So there are so many just different security concerns here, so many different kind of technical concerns that we do need open bridge standards. And I'm very, very happy to see that these projects came together in order to put this forward, which you can read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But the other bit of drama, I think, around this was more specific to Lido, because it was kind of ironic that for the last few months at least, the Lido kind of ecosystem, not everyone in there, but the just generally, had been kind of making fun of the social layer, right? Or at least maybe not making fun of it directly, but like watering down its importance in response to all of the talk about making sure that Lido's dominance on the beacon chain didn't go up from here and actually went down. And people were making fun of things like the self-limiting stuff, which I have said in the past that I thought was kind of like more virtue signaling than anything else. But it was just ironic to see that after making fun of the social layer for so long, now they were actually calling to the social layer, being like, well, the social layer needs to push back on this. They need to push back on proprietary standards on projects doing this. And that's exactly what has happened with this call for an open bridging standard. This is the social layer calling for this, guys. Like, yes, there'll be technical implementations of this, but this all starts at the social layer. So I just thought it was just amazingly ironic that kind of happened there. And I had a little bit of a laugh to myself about it and with some of my friends. But I think that it should just kind of reinforce the importance of the social layer to people, because I mean, I've talked about this so much on the Refuel. I think you can even go back to some of the earliest episodes of the Refuel and see me talking about the social layer and its importance, because at the end of the day, everything just like boils up from there. The social layer really is the fire that boils the pot and boils all the ingredients in the pot. Like, if you want to use this weirdly loose analogy that I just came up with, that Ethereum is a stew, right? Well, without the fire, the stew is not going to boil. So you need the fire, which is the social layer, and then you build everything else on top, basically, or you have everything else on top. And that's exactly what happens here. The social layer responds and basically pushes back against what LayerZero did, and comes up with a technical solution here, and then pushes that through and works on it for the years to come, which I'm sure that it's going to be worked on for many years here, because, as I've said before, bridging especially is not just a security risk for the fact that bridges are such like honeypots, but it's also kind of like a standards risk, because I think I've articulated this a lot on the Refuel, but just to refresh it for people, like when you hop between chains, and when you kind of move assets between chains, ultimately I guess like where that asset was issued is the settlement layer for that chain, right? So for example, ETH on another chain is not ETH. It's ETH IOU from whatever bridging protocol you've used. Like, for example, if you move ETH through Wormhole to Solana, Wormhole technically has the ETH, right? Even if you do like a mint and burn, mint and burns don't. So I'm getting a little bit off track here. Mint and burns are a different thing, but a lot of the bridges work the way of the example I just gave, where that ETH on Solana is not real ETH, right? That ETH was not issued on Solana. It is bridged via some third-party bridge where you basically have an IOU. Whereas ETH on Ethereum is real ETH. That is not an IOU anymore. That is the asset. Ethereum is the settlement layer for ETH. The tokens issued on Ethereum are the settlement layer for that token. But then you have like layer 2s that have natively issued tokens where they're not issued on layer 1 at all. Then their settlement layer is layer 2, unless they're issued on layer 1, which they're not, right? So their settlement layer is the layer 2, and the layer 2 settlement layer is layer 1. But that's more so for the assets that have been bridged in and things like that. Like the actual assets on the layer 2 are settled down to the layer 2 itself, right? And then, I mean, you can keep going with this, and you can keep kind of like daisy chaining the bridging out and kind of getting as complex as you want. But that's why you need open standards here, because you need a way to track all of this. You need a way to keep track all of this from an accounting point of view. And you need to reduce the risk and reduce lock-in and vendor lock-in because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at scale. It creates so many silos. And at the end of the day, with on-chain stuff, we try to eliminate as many silos as possible. So yeah, anyway, you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, applications for Gitcoin grants round 19 are now open. So you can go to grants.gitcoin.co to learn more and see the full list of rounds that are currently open for applications. And if you want to apply, make sure this isn't new. And they say this isn't new because there's a cat kind of like applying after the period ended. You have to apply by November 8th for a guaranteed review before Gitcoin grants round 19 kicks off. So yeah, if you are building something that I guess like you want to get funded, or if you're an individual doing things within the ecosystem, whether that's like kind of making educational content or other such things like that, you can apply to Gitcoin grants round 19 here to be part of that round, to be part of the matching pool, and hopefully get a bit of money to continue the work that you've been doing here. But yeah, I did say that round 19, the dates for it were revealed. I think it was last week. I think it kicks off like the 15th of November or something like that, or sometime in mid to late November there. So yeah, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to donate to that once it's live as well. But yeah, as I said, make sure to get your applications in by November 8th if you are planning to apply for Gitcoin grants round 19. All right, last up here, I just wanted to give a shout out to this conference, this crypto conference that I'm going to be attending in Sydney next month. Next month being November, on the 23rd and 24th of November here. And the reason why I'm shouting this out is twofold. One, it's to give you guys advance warning that there will be no refuels. I think for 3 days, it'll be like... actually, it may be, it'll be 3 days. It'll be the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of November. They're not technically rug fuels because I'm giving you advanced warning here. But yeah, I think the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of November, there'll be no refuels because I will be in Sydney for this event here. And that is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then obviously I'll be back on the Monday there. Now, secondly, the reason I'm shouting it out is because if you are looking for a crypto event to attend in Australia and you're either somewhere else in Australia or in Sydney, I can recommend this one. This one is being run by the same people who ran the last event that I went to in Sydney. There's always a bunch of good people there. It's not one of those classic kind of crypto conferences that just has moon boys and, shitty kind of shilling. No, this is like... basically a conference where people are in it for the tech. They want to discuss the tech. They don't really care to talk about the price. And it's a bunch of different people as well. It's not just crypto native people, but it's also people working in TradFi, working kind of like the legal arena, working in other kind of adjacent industries to crypto. So it's going to be a really, really great thing here. So there are 2 days, as I said, 23rd and 24th of November, which is the Thursday and Friday. The first day, I think, is the bulk of it, the content stream, day 1 here, which you can check out. I mean, I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out. And there's more kind of details on the website here. I don't think tickets are on sale yet. They're on sale soon, so I don't think you can buy tickets just yet. But yeah, they'll be kind of like on sale soon there. And then also I wanted to say that I'll be speaking at this event. I think I'm speaking alongside Kane from Synthetics, and I think I've signed myself up to speak as much as possible, to be honest, because I feel like you can see the list of topics that they want to cover on the left-hand side here. I feel like I could talk to any of these topics, and I really want to be able to educate as many people as possible on, as many of these topics as possible, especially when it comes to things like layer 2s, because I still think those things are very much misunderstood. Things like MEV as well, I think is very misunderstood, but just Ethereum's roadmap in general, I think is just very, very misunderstood. This brings me to the last thing I actually want to talk about for today, as a pivot from this, which, as I said, I'll link this in the YouTube description below. You can go check this out. But as a pivot from this and basically related to what I was just talking about, there was this saying that us Ethereans came up with like a few years ago. I don't know who came up with it or how it emerged, but it was this saying of the most bullish thing for Ethereum is for it to be understood. Because Ethereum is inherently difficult to understand, I think. And I'm not talking about just understanding some Ethereum use cases like stablecoins and NFTs and Web3 and whatever you want to call it. I'm talking about actually understanding what makes Ethereum as a network valuable and what makes ETH as an asset valuable. Those two things require a lot of context to actually get people to understand why it's valuable. Because I can sit there and explain to someone what the Ethereum network does, how it works, what use cases there are, why I find them valuable. But to get them to actually, and I'm talking about like someone totally new to crypto, to get them to actually understand it on a fundamental level takes quite a while, right? And then for them to understand on a fundamental level why ETH is valued the way it is, because what a lot of the pushback I usually get is people saying, well, if people only need ETH for the network and it's like a fee token, why would anyone hold ETH other than to use it for fees? And then obviously I have to go into, give a lot of context around what a store of value is, what a money actually is, what monetary premium is, why people think ETH is this. And there's a lot of education that needs to be done there. I mean, I could spend so long talking to people about this, right? But obviously I don't have unlimited time with people. So, I mean, a lot of the times I just kind of, I wouldn't say make it up on the spot, but I've kind of, there's no script about it. I just kind of explain to people what comes to my head. But as I said, it goes back to that saying of like the most bullish thing for Ethereum is to be understood, because once you understand Ethereum as a network, once you understand the value, and then once you understand how that value flows to ETH, then it becomes a thing of, wow, you know, I need to buy ETH, right? That's kind of what it's been for me for years now. It's like I need more ETH, right? And I think it's for what it is for a lot of you guys out there. And it doesn't just apply to Ethereum, it applies to various different projects as well. I think that there are big, ambitious projects out there, like Chainlink, for example. I mean, I think Chainlink, they've been building for so long now, and I think people misunderstand that as just being an Oracle network, right? And this is the same thing, where people are like, oh, Chainlink's just an Oracle network, where no, it's actually much more than that, right? Like much, much more than that. Same with Ethereum. Ethereum is not just a network for people to kind of like gamble on Ponzi tokens, right? Ethereum is much, much more than that, and is home to much, much more than that. But for people to understand that, they have to actually dive a bit deeper than the surface level stuff. So yeah, that's why it goes back to what I said about the most bullish thing for Ethereum, and obviously ETH as well, is to be understood. And it's in stark contrast, I think, to something like Bitcoin, where the more you understand Bitcoin, I think to a point, the potentially more bearish you can become on it, because I think there's a certain type of person that is attracted to Bitcoin as a primary thing, and attracted to BTC, the asset, as a primary thing. But if you want to do more, if you want to be more expressive about it, and you want to kind of like express a view more, more openly, you can't really do that with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin has a very, very distinct and I think like monoculture view about what it is and what the BTC, the asset, is. Right? But then when it comes to Ethereum, it's obviously much more expressive. But I think that's to Bitcoin's advantage, because it's much easier for people to understand Bitcoin and understand the value prop of something like digital gold than it is for them to understand something like the world computer, as Ethereum has been known in the past, right? Or a settlement layer, as Ethereum has been known for, and then how Ether accrues value from that. So it's just different kind of fundamental value drivers and narratives and stuff like that. And there's also kind of a network effect to it as well, where essentially, Bitcoin obviously has the network effect, has a bigger network effect than Ethereum does, and that's reflected in the price of the asset. That's reflected in the, I guess, like meme share that it has. I think I use the term meme share to mean kind of like its narrative, its kind of mentions outside of crypto, because obviously outside of crypto, Bitcoin is a thing that all of the mainstream media uses to reference crypto generally. But then also, I think I've mentioned this on the review before, until it gets to the day where I feel comfortable telling people that or saying to people that I work in Ethereum, rather than saying to them that I work in crypto, or telling them, hey, do you know what Bitcoin is? And then saying, oh yeah, I work in that industry. Until I feel comfortable knowing that someone actually knows what Ethereum is, and it's become like kind of a mainstream thing, I think that Ethereum is definitely very far away from being understood by the majority. And there's different levels of understanding too, of course. Like, you can go as deep as you want with this sort of stuff, but that's my bull case, is that more and more people over time understand Ethereum, understand the value of ETH, and that's why over time Ethereum and ETH get more valuable. And I think that's been true up until today, and I think it's going to be true for decades to come there. But I think on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.